What's up, crew member? Welcome back to yet another live stream. Always a pleasure to have you here. If you're not a crew member and you want to become part of the Camera Junkie crew, just make sure you hit the like and subscribe, and make sure that you introduce yourself here in chat or in comments so that you can get that nice warm welcome from the rest of the crew. Welcome as always to yet another live stream. This is episode number 42 consecutive weeks on the Camera Junkie live stream, and it's always my pleasure to have all of you here. Let's see who's in the house to check. Oh, we got Rich Graham. Whoa, that is way too big. It's been way too and big in there. Okay, let's see if we can lock this up here. This looks like a good size there. Yeah, last week I didn't even realize that all the comments were like cutting off my face, so I ended up looking like, the home improvement neighbor, the guy behind the fence, because everything was just like this half of the stream. So let's get that going. All right, we have Kevin also here. Welcome. It says today has been a day. Back to school, parent meetings all day, ceiling fan in a remodeled house that was wired all crazy. Fun. Yes, this has been not only a day, what a week. This week has literally been a blur. For those of you who don't know, a lot of you here in chat right off the bat do know about the leap into live stream, and we're going to get into that in just a little bit, because what a whirlwind of a week. Okay, so we have Sammy Superstar in the house. Welcome. Oh, let's not do that. I'm getting a little happy with the scroll wheel. Okay. And we have Heather Ramirez. Awesome. Welcome. All right. Inspirational Connection TV. If I'm correct, this is Samantha. Welcome. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Kevin says, yes, everyone, make sure to hit the like button on the way in. It's highly appreciated. I always forget that, so thank you very much, Kevin. Actually, you know what? Let's see what we can do here. Why are you popping up? There are a couple people. Here we go. We were just talking about moderators in the channel. So, congratulations to Kevin and to Heather. Heather, you were one that I hadn't gotten into the channel. And when we were talking about it with Tom about that whole adding it, you were the person that I was trying to add in the background, and it didn't work. But now I got you in here. So you guys have just been wrenched. So it's always a pleasure, and I highly appreciate all of you guys here. Hassan is in the house saying hello. Mr. Tom Buck says yo diggity yo. Yiggity yo. I love it. I might have a question for you. You know how it is. Shoot away. And if you do have a question, make sure to just put a Q in front of it so that I can actually better see it through the chat and I don't miss it. All right. Todd is here saying hello to everyone. Sammy says, I crushed Leap. I hope so. I tried to do my best, but it was just a lot of fun. If I think I did something really well, was like all of the moderators. Man, that was an intense. And, just to get into it, 84 hours of content through this seminar. So Paul Duncan was actually, he moderated he was in the chat for all 84 hours, and that doesn't include the behind the scenes stuff that we were trying to take care of. So it was just a lot of fun, to tell you the truth, because I got to see the ins and outs of all the workings in the background, which was a complete, like, eye-opening experience. But also to be a moderator of this event, and then also to be able to participate, I feel that I was able to try to I was able to experience like every aspect of Leap into Live, like all crammed into one. On top of all this, throughout the week, my alternator in my car went out. So while I was moderating in Leap, it was very funny because I was taking care of all of these situations like in between the sessions, and I was like going, and then I like removed the alternator from the car, and then I went to the auto parts store with my father's help to go pick up the replacement. And while I was moderating and participating, I was still somehow taking care of everyday life to life situations. Another added bonus to this week was that I did my first official collaboration with Senor Tom Buck. We both made a couple of videos about the Stream Deck, which I'm completely enamored with. I'm completely hooked with my Stream Deck. Absolutely love it. And we made a couple of videos and just kind of like helped each other out by referencing each other's videos and dropping them at the same time. So that started my week on Monday, to then actually just hop right into Leap into live stream, and basically didn't come out of it till Thursday. And I can honestly tell you, I'm exhausted. When people are saying like, Lewis, you were everywhere this week, I don't even know how, because I know that right now in my chest, my body is telling me like, you need some sleep. But that will never stop me from doing the live stream, because this is exactly where I want to be. This is the place, this is the hangout that I want to spend my time no matter what. So I always appreciate all of you guys hanging out. So yes, Heather says wrenched. Here we go. Absolutely. Hey, Kevin, I appreciate you, man. You're always here, and you actually, like, as a moderator, I do these things, right? To always make sure to mention things like that for other people's streams. Like, hey, don't forget to hit the like, because I know that I forget myself. Sometimes we're just so caught up with the story or the information that we're getting from these videos, and I sometimes myself forget to just hit that to my favorite creators, and so I always appreciate it, because I'm probably the worst at doing it for my own live streams. I'm having so much fun, so I'm just wrapped up in the conversation and I forget to do that. So I always appreciate it when you mention it. So definitely I appreciate you. Says that Mod Squad was an amazing crew. Yeah, and I'll tell you the truth, we impressed Ecamm, so to speak, and big ups to Doc Rock and the LGL community, because everyone that was part of that, that was in the Mod Squad, actually really did such an amazing job that, we made Doc look good and we made ourselves look good. So that really helps, because I actually think it's all part of that, just the giving mentality or the giving nature. That is what gave me the opportunity, because how can I explain? I wasn't expecting that I was going to be a speaker at Leap into Live. So like Doc Rock said, like, oh, I'm going to be there next year. I didn't even get that opportunity, because I was able to fit it in the first year that I found out about Leap into Live stream. So once again, I'm highly like honored, super excited, so many great connections, and it was just a lot of fun. Like, honestly, the chat that we had as moderators, helping each other out, just making sure that everyone was happy, was like really a really cool experience. Just like I said, to see that in the back end, but then to experience all of the speakers. Like, honestly, Tom and Heather, their little hour thing was amazing, and that's just because they're here, because everybody brought the fire. I really do mean, like Diana, just so many great content creators, so many great point of views. And I think that's the thing that most people maybe didn't take that I did. So many great different point of views. A lot of topics were very similar. And what you realize is that there's not just one way of doing this. You can figure out your own path. And that's what makes this all so exciting, because what you're able to see is that if you put a little thought into it, whatever it is that you're doing on this platform, you will be able to actually accomplish way more than you could ever imagine, which is part of what we're doing here. I'm just amazed that we're past 850 crew members on the Camera Junkie crew, and it's growing. I'm excited right now for the decimal point. Yes, I said it. I can't wait to reach 1,000 subscribers, because I know it's just an inevitability. And I can't wait to see that 1 point something, that little decimal point before that one. I'm just getting excited to see how this community is growing, because more importantly, it's growing the way that I want it to. You know, like, it's not because I'm doing free giveaways. It's not because I'm trying to like coax people into being part of this sort of movement, you know, the upgrade your skills. Shameless plug. Press and Sew. But that's another thing. You see, Press and Sew is such an awesome company that I've been able to get united with, and it's all part of all of the things that have already exceeded all of my expectations, and I can't wait to see where it continues. But let's get back to the chat. Yeah, Heather says 84 hours. Yes, 84 hours is correct. I try to be there as much as possible, but I am also a single father, so that's also another thing that was on my plate this week, which was just you're the goat, Lewis. I don't know about that, but I do my best. Mario's here. How you doing, sir? Welcome. It says you sold me on the stream deck, dude. I almost was trying not to be biased, right? But the questions that were asked of me, I was like, what would you do? I'm like, yeah, that's actually it. And you know what, Heather? I missed an opportunity, and I did, because I just realized that I was talking all of this stuff about the stream deck itself and how awesome it is, but I didn't even mention that to prove it, kind of to just throw the cherry on top of, like, I just made a video that was released 4 days ago about the stream deck before I even knew that I was going to be talking to the guy from Elgato. So it's just so cool, and how everything fell into place, because out of all the talks that I could have been a part of, that was like the one that fit perfectly in my wheelhouse. It's basically what I do here every Saturday, hanging out and talking about cameras and stuff that you can do to upgrade your skills or upgrade your live stream. Heather says, I hope you treat yourself, man. Todd, the stream deck will be super helpful. I absolutely use it for everything. So that's what mods are for, sir. And I appreciate you, sir. Says, question, I'm going to be adding a second camera for the new set. I'm going to be using a red curtain like a late night shows, and I wanted to see what lens would work best. Should I get a new lens? Well, if you can do me a favor, Sammy, right here in the chat, write down the lenses that you have available for your camera, and I can give you more or less an idea of, if you actually need another lens or if you don't. I like the idea of the red curtain. I think it's part of your like your thumbnails, right? Kind of like that same old school curtain with like the gold trim. If that's what you're saying, like a traditional, almost like a Johnny Carson type of red velvet type of stage. Am I saying that right? Yeah. So if that's what you're talking about, I think that would be really cool. Let me know what lenses you have to see if it's something that you really need. But comparative to your setup, that like the way that you have it on your computer, if you're going to do that as a second setup, you're gonna have to totally change the light scheme on it, because the reds are also, it tends to be more of a dark color. It doesn't bounce off that much, so you're going to probably need to use a little bit more light than you're used to, but you should be able to get it done. Andrew Hoyle, welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you. I believe this is the first time to the stream. Thank you for saying hello and welcome to the crew. I believe you're also part of the Just Create More community. So, as always, welcome, welcome. I also have the 16 Sigma and the stock Sony lens. Next year, I want to speak into live. Nice. Look, you're already professing it, so that's cool, Sam. I'm working with the phone app now until I have money for the tangible Stream Deck. You know, I never tried the app, and that's full disclosure. I just never tried it. I don't know how it works, and if you can do a lot of the similar things, that could be interesting, because all of my sound effects are done on an old school iPad. All of these. So I don't see that it will have an issue with latency, but that's actually pretty cool. Okay, so I was right. It says yes, it was Samantha. Okay, well it says yes, Samantha. All right. All of the sessions I was in, I didn't think were any that I clicked out of, and the presentations were amazing. Yeah, and I'm modding, right? And it was difficult to just sit there and mod when sometimes I would just get like lost in the conversation. So they're just talking, I'm like just getting my mind blown. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like supposed to be paying attention to the chat. So, even me, like so many of these lectures and lessons were so incredible that they pull your attention, and it's just so much information crammed in that I actually think that the one thing that kind of was like good but also bad was the 1 hour limitation. Now, the 1 hour is great because you were able to get so many different points of view, like I mentioned before, into one event. But then there was some of the talks that there was just so much information that I know I have to rewatch pretty much all 84 hours all over again. So I'm gonna take my time, bite-sized chunks, but I know that that's something that's gonna happen because of how much information was there. Okay, so let's do this. Heather says 1,000 crew members. Let's go. Oh no, it just does not work that way. Okay, let's go back. All right. That's me just talking to myself. I've been trying to set up the scenes, and for whatever reason, when I try to go to the switching camera, all the comments tend to go to the back, and I'd rather not have that. Question: are the Leap into Live replays up to watch? Yes. And if you want, you could try to send me a DM, or you could actually email support at eCam, I believe, and they'll be able to get you with that information. I was trying to look at it, but like I said, I'm so exhausted this week. Like today, right now, I was trying to look up some information. Here, just to give you a little bit of insight, I was so tired that I was like, okay, let me see it. Like, not to sleep, but I need to just go vertical or horizontal, right? Yeah, I just need to go horizontal and lay down, just lay down for a little bit. And I ended up falling asleep that I just woke up less than an hour ago. Still feeling tired, but I was scared that I had missed the live stream, that I was like, did I just drop the ball, And that's how I woke up, kind of in a whole little I felt like I was literally behind the ball And within the hour, I was able to just set everything up, and here we are, live as always, to talk about, exactly what happened this week. But that's how tired I am right now, and I have not found any of that documentation. So if you want, send me a message, and I'll be able to get you like the link so that you can get to the replays. I think even if you didn't participate, so I don't know what type of ticket that you have for the Leap into Livestream. I think it's like $10 that you will have access for all of the replays to watch as many times as you want over, which that in itself is actually just super worth it. Super worth it. Like the information itself, even if it was just like you were watching it without the chat, the $10 is absolutely super, super worth it. Says, where's the link for upgrade your skills? That's a good question, but you know what? Let me set it up. That one I do know off the top of my head. That's pressandsew.com/MCJ. Okay, and let me get to it here. And then I think I could put that in chat. Let's see that. Boom. Yes, except it totally made me lose where I was at. Okay, there we are. Okay, I just put the link in chat, so that should be there. Also wanted to say, love your insight. You've helped me a lot in bettering my channel. Well, that's awesome. Thank you, sir. That's the goal of what I do here. I try to inspire and give and pass along my enthusiasm for photography and video and all of this technical stuff. I'm a techie. I'm a camera junkie. Absolutely love the tech, and I love the ability to do all of this stuff. So if I'm able to pass on a little bit of that enthusiasm to help somebody else experience what I experienced, that's exactly what I want. So thank you. I felt so bad for a lot of the Leap into Live speakers that had full pass for Leap. I forgot my username and password on the 2nd, the last day, and I found my password and username. I thought I was going to see you more. I just thought you were busy because I saw you towards the end of the event. But as always, we have the replays. It was just... I'm happy myself that I have the replays available even to me, because there was so much information that it's pretty much impossible to grasp everything in one go. And that's why I said, I know for a fact I will definitely have to rewatch all of those sessions to get the most out of them and take serious notes. All right, Matt is in the house saying hello, hope all is great on my side. Yeah, I had an incredible week. A very accomplished full week, or accomplished filled week. Yeah, so much was done even today, for all of you, right? I'm a single dad. I got to do all this stuff. Today, while I'm running around, I was still part of Doc Rock's live stream. While I was running around doing my errands, today was laundry day. So I have laundry baskets here. As soon as I'm done with the live stream, it's not like I get to go to sleep. I have to then put away all the clothes that I finished washing and folding earlier today. And then I'm probably going to see about cleaning up some dishes that I have backed up, because a couple of things on the personal side got backed up this week. No lie. There was a couple of things I was like, I will watch that later, because I had to take care of the things that were, prominent at the moment. And Leap into live stream, man, that took a lot. But like I said, it's not a complaint, because it was so much fun. But yeah. Did it take a lot? Kippy is in the house. Kippy, I saw that you have a new video where I believe you're interviewing Mr. Brandon Washington. So that's really cool. I haven't had the chance with everything that's happened this week, but I did spot that, and I put that on my watch later list. So I will definitely be taking a look at that. I'm excited. Sammy says yes. If Sammy's saying yes, then he's talking about the curtains. those like old school curtains. Like I said, you're probably gonna need to look into a couple of soft boxes that are more like full on steady light, consistent light. If you're gonna have somebody step out from behind the curtain, either to show up and sit down, or just like the old school used to do it, where they used to come from behind the curtain and then just speak into a mic before they made their way over to like the interview chair. Yes, you see, that's why Kevin is the man. You see, I did it, but Kevin beat me to it. That's so awesome. And he says, thanks, Kevin. No problem. The replays are up, Andrew. I just watched one yesterday. Talking about that, I think mine is still not up for replay. I think the last two, and I don't even know if the cocktail party is going to get broadcast through it, but I don't know if it's also a separate link to those actual files, or if you just go through Run the World. Because there were several sessions worth $10 alone. Exactly. Like, honestly, like, there was a lot. It's just so much to grasp. Doc was also mentioning, I forgot her name. I think her name was Laura, from the representative from Shure. Her camera went down. Her presentation was like a half an hour. So for the hour block, she presented the video for a half an hour, which was great. And then she did a Q&A. And the Q&A aspect afterwards, she did without a camera, but because she's a Shure mic representative, right? Her audio was great. She was on her iPhone while she was like cooking dinner, and she totally crushed it. Like, and what I mean crushed it was like, it was so much fun. She was so involved in the comments that she was reading all the comments. We were talking about a new cooking show with like Shure microphones and coming up with names. I even mentioned like Shure Tastes Good, as SHURE, Shure Tastes Good, as the Shure microphone cooking show. So there's so many little tidbits like that's why I said like the whole experience of Leap Into Life was incredible. That's what it is. It was incredible. My smile should speak volumes about how much fun it was. It's something that I know I will never forget, and I cannot wait for like the next Leap Into live stream or whatever type of like conference, something similar to this, like even if it is next year's Leap or whatever else comes before that. And that's still not even talking about the LGL with the Vlogmas and all the things that we do in that side of content creation. So many things that I'm looking forward to. This is awesome. Thank you again, Mr. Camera Junkie and Heather, helping me out once again. Hey, it's our pleasure, and I'm saying that my behalf and Heather as well. I know, like, there's a certain level of satisfaction that you get that is like unmatched when you actually help another individual, and that's that ultimate like dopamine hit, so to speak, like that. Wow, what I did was able to be valuable for someone else, and that's very important. Sylvia Nixon in the house. Thank you. Just text me. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to read this. Give me 1 second. Let me just. Oh, okay. Well, fresh off the presses. Let me see. Thank you. I'm just gonna have to put this back up. Right now, let me know, Sylvia, if you're listening right now. Let me know if there's a special code that we can use to put it in. If there is something that you can set it up, if you can drop it in chat, I would highly appreciate it. She just texted me saying that anyone that were to buy a t-shirt from thepressandsew.com, basically what we're gonna do right now is buy one get one free. So If you were to go onto the Press and Sew website and you were to buy this shirt right here, this is, let me see if you can hear me. Okay, this is the gold version of the Upgrade Your Skills shirt, and it should be the first one on there. Um, I'm gonna see if we can work that out real quick with a code. That if you were to buy the gold one, I guess you can select one of the other two, so it'll be like buy one get one free. And if that's correct, and I just want to get a confirmation from Sylvia, see if like before the end of the broadcast, if we can put like a code so that when you check out, it will take the second one and make it free. That would be awesome. And look at that. That's just an example, because just got to give a to Sylvia Nixon, Andrew Nixon, and the Press and Sew crew. Like, they are amazing. They show up. I am so fortunate to be able to work with them because of how they work. You know, if it's one thing that, you know, we all like gear, we all like cameras, we all like microphones and all these things. And one of the things that we talk about more than anything else is quality control. Keith Pelzer had a video not too long ago where he was talking about these like little camera tripods, and that how he bought a couple to compare and that one was completely not worth it. And then other manufacturers, even though they might have good products, really don't have quality control down tight. So one person can get a really good product and somebody else can get absolutely the worst, because the consistency coming out of the factory quality control is not there. But if it's one thing about Press and Sew, not only is their merch quality, but on top of that, like their entire quality control is beyond reproach. Like, I have not seen, every person that's gotten a package from Press and Sew, they're always taken back with the TLC, you know, the tender love and care that is shown, put into every package, with even something as simple as a t-shirt. So thank you. And that's why I absolutely recommend anyone who's interested in doing something similar to definitely check out Press and Sew. They go above and beyond, and I appreciate them so much. They are awesome. So Kippy says, yeah, Lewis, do check it out. Thanks so much. Absolutely. Caleb, what's up, man? Says, good late evening. It's always a late evening here with the Camera Junkie crew. This is almost Club Camera Junkie. You know, like some people go out on a Saturday night and stay out till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, especially here in South Florida. You know, right here in Miami, there's a nightclub here, Club Space, that does not open until 4 in the morning when all the other clubs close. So that should just let you know. And if people can spend their time doing that right here, why wouldn't I spend my time doing something that I absolutely love, which is hanging out with all you amazing people? The Stream Deck app is $3 a month. That's actually not bad. But it uses the same software. Click add mobile software and you can scan the QR code and phone tablet. It's a 15-button Stream Deck. As far as I know, there's no limitations. That came out really big again, but I think that was just the size of the comment. Okay. That's really cool to know, especially if it's to start. Oh, so Sylvia says no code. Okay, so just to confirm, Sylvia, if they just buy 2 shirts, they get 1 free, right? Give me the thumbs up and, you know, we'll go from there. Dan C. Bearded. How are you doing, man? Welcome to the stream. It says just order and we will send the extra shirt. Okay, great. Okay, it says black and gold shirt and we will send another color for free. Great. Okay, so you heard it here, everyone. For those of you, if you're interested in picking up a Press and Sew or MrCameraJunkie, upgrade your skills in gold, you will also be getting another color out for free as well. Sammy saying hi to Sylvia. Says that's awesome, Lewis, as the delivery costs as much as the shirts for me. You see, that's great, but I can honestly say I do as much as I can. Sylvia is so awesome. She also allows me to know what are things that are available to me. And like this, I try to give you guys as much value as soon as I know about it. Like one of the things that is also available now is the new mugs, the upgrade your skill mugs, which is the newest thing on the site. And I actually wanted to see if I can get some of your feedback as well. Before I joined the Press and Sew group, before I joined this set of awesome individuals, I had been trying my own merch on print on demand. Now, take a look at this shirt here. Let me see if I can get. This is my I Am a Camera Junkie shirt. This is my design, and all of the shirts that are coming out are my design. Now, I have this shirt, and then I also have another one, which is another design that I made that was called Glass Before Ass, which is upgrade your optics before your camera body, because optics are so much more important than your camera body. It's all about upgrading your skills and knowing the difference. With that said, these were shirts that I designed before I was partnered up with Press and Sew. But these are designs that I want to bring over to Press and Sew as I start building out the store with them. So I would love to know, which one do you think I should go for my next design? I got 2 more coming out, but because of the designs that I have, I don't know if I should go with I Am a Camera Junkie like this, or if I should go with the other one that says Glass Before Ass, like Mark II, because that will be like a new updated version of that saying. So let me know, which one do you think I should go with for my next design. And then there's still a third design that's coming out, which is also going to be for you guys, for the Camera Junkie crew. So that one's also going to be, I'm designing that one particular for you, maybe like with the hashtag, the CJC, the Camera Junkie crew. So always have you guys in mind, and those are the next like my next ideas that I'm going to be adding to this merch shop with Press and Sew. So let me know what you guys think. Give me a 1 for I'm a Camera Junkie, and a number 2 for Glass Before Ass. Yep. Actually, you know what? Give me 1 second, because I'm gonna pull out this shirt so that you can see what the other design looks like. If I can find it. Just pop in. As I mentioned before, I was just doing laundry, so. So that's the design, Glass Before Ass, with all of the lenses. So what I was thinking was basically remaking that one with the new updated like fonts. Or this one, which is the same one that I got on right now, but I had to, so you can get a better look. So let me know, which one do you think we should add to the Press and Sew side, because everything else that where I was dealing with before, I totally closed that down, and I'm going to be remaking these designs with the people that I want to be working with. So I would love your input on that to see which one I should do. So once again, number 1 for I'm a Camera Junkie, and number 2 for Glass Before Ass. Says, wow, Sylvia is amazing. Yes, she is. Okay, so she's saying it will be an exclusive color just for the live. Okay, so it's not even gonna be red. I guess it's gonna be an exclusive color. You see, she even pulls out these surprises. That's awesome. So, if you order a gold one, you're gonna get a surprise color additional free shirt from the Press and Sew and Mr. Camera Junkie. Oh, now you're adding a little intrigue to it. That sounds good. I like it. Says Sylvia Nixon, buy the black and gold and you will throw another in there. Yes. Hot Tub Lady is in the house. Super duper enjoyed Ecamm Live and you did a great job. Thank you very much. I did my best, but it's also pretty easy when you got Doc Rock helping you out running the show. You know, he just sets them up and I just knock them down. So he makes it super easy. Caleb says, happy to be here. Happy that you're here. Doesn't open till 4 a.m. You know where I'll never be at that place. Yes, it's called Club Space. Let me see if I remember. I haven't been there in years. Last time I visited that place was when I used to bartend myself. So when my restaurant or bar would close, and then I just wanted to go hang out for the evening before I went home myself, that was kind of like the after hours bar or club. It would open at 4 a.m. when all the other places would close down, and it was a rooftop nightclub in Miami, in downtown. It's a pretty interesting experience, but those days are far behind me. Says Kevin Cox, yes, we will add an exclusive color. Okay, so we're getting all of the details wrinkled out. So you order the Upgrade Your Skills in gold. That's all you have to do. So you order that shirt, and you will be getting another one for free with a particular undisclosed surprise color. And if you do end up ordering this, make sure that you take a picture of this exclusive color and tag me with it, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter or anything like that. I can't wait to see it. And she says, buy one, get one free. Because you're amazing. I would have to say the same, Sylvia. You guys are awesome. Dan says, doing well, my friend. Thanks. Says, what sizes do the shirts go up to? I wear 3XL. I'm a big boy. I don't think that there should be a problem with the sizes. I wear the 2XL myself. When I first got the shirts from Press and Sew, I was like, I'm an extra large. And then when it got here, I was like, I'm an extra large. It looks like the lockdowns got to everybody. Last time I ordered a shirt, I was an XL. Not anymore. Okay, he says up to 4XL. Awesome. Sylvia says we got you covered. Awesome. Look, Randall says bought the t-shirt and the coffee cup. That's awesome. Thank you, Randall. You're amazing. Andrew's saying awesome. Is it possible to get a tall shirt in MCJ gear? That's a good question. She says, yes, please. Just add it in the notes. Awesome. Look at how awesome this is. Okay. So, Tom, we're getting the numbers now here. Okay, so we got... Let me get a little notepad here. All right. Actually, I should be able to do this a lot easier, right? We can search the comments. Where's my mouse cursor? I'm going to search for the number 1. Okay. Okay, well, we got some that said 1, 2, and 3. So Randall and Andrew says 1 and 2. Okay. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 for the number 1. That's too funny. Okay, I'm gonna get to that comment right there. I'm just laughing at this. And Tom says, "I think option 2 is funny, but I don't know if I would wear a shirt with a dirty word on it." You know, that's the funny thing. Like, that is probably the softest of the heavy words because it's actually, an animal. But I digress. Okay, obviously number one won, so that's cool. All right, but we'll see. I'm gonna have to remake. I'm gonna have to remake that one because that's still something that's part of me. That's gonna make it, but it looks like the next one that's gonna make the shop is going to be the I am a camera junkie. So, well, I'm gonna work on that, and then the other one, like I said, about the camera junkie crew, the CJC, and I think that's gonna be the next one of my next projects that I'm going to try my best to have done and delivered to Sylvia this coming week. Oh, this went all the way back to the top of the chat. Okay, let's see where we're at. Okay, here we are. I like this song. Okay, so this is where we are. Randall says he bought the t-shirt and the coffee cup. And then we had the number ones. Sylvia, don't mind paying extra for the towel if it's available. Thanks. Oh, well, like she said, I think she's got you. So just put it in the notes and we should be good to go. Okay, so we're getting all the numbers, you see. It says 1 and 2. Randall says 1, 2, and 3. That's so funny. Sylvia's saying, LOL, Tom Bug. He says, yeah, the same. I couldn't wear that one to work as well. I know, but you might be able to wear it. Oh, look, he's saying brother. So this is the other half of the present. So let me just say, this is Sylvia Nixon. Sylvia Nixon. Let me see if I can do this right. Boom. And this is the other half. This is Andrew from Press and Sew. So look at that. We got them both in the house. Okay, what's going on? Okay. I think you could put... Okay, he says, I think you could pull it off, Tom. It goes well with your punny style. And that's the funny thing. Like, that was way before, like, I got in contact with Tom. So that was just one of my sayings from back in the day. So similar, but just a little bit more edgy. Caleb says agreed. So it looks like, it is that word, the glass before ass, but it's okay. So, like I said, we're going to move forward with the I am a camera junkie. That's actually a picture of an actual camera that I own, which is actually it's this one right here above my head, which is my Zenit XP12. Awesome vintage camera. It is a Russian camera, and that's the one that I got with my Helios 5058 F2. All right, Louis Lazuka is in the house. How you doing, sir? Welcome to the live stream. He's saying hi to Tom. He's saying hi to Heather as well. He's saying I'm looking crispy. Thank you. But like I told you before in the comment, it didn't always start out this way. If you like the way that my stream looks, know that I use Ecamm and that I slowly progressed to this because my first live streams, well, I talked about them, like it was 10 frames per second. It was not what you're seeing here. So you don't have to be great to start, but you always have to start to be great. This is, and I just picked up a new shirt. This is so awesome. And thanks again, Sylvia and Andrew. That's such an amazing deal. So I highly appreciate you guys stopping by and spreading that special with the Camera Junkie crew. It really does mean a lot. Melanie is here in the house. What's up? It says done and done, ordered. Sly Reader is here. Says hello, Lewis and fellow junkies. Good to see everyone. Good to see you here as well. Okay, so we got some more orders. Okay, we're saying hi to everybody. It says, good. Thank you all for supporting Tom. Shirts ordered. Look at that. That's so awesome. That's so awesome. I appreciate all of you guys. You guys are incredible. Well, now to talk a little bit about, because we talked about a little bit about the leap into live stream. I am going to be putting some information in the description for people who catch the replay. But if you are interested about getting some more information, please do not hesitate to just shoot me out a message, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, or maybe even a comment on this same video. Don't hesitate, just shoot out so that I can get that information out to you about getting the replay tickets for Leap into Live. I highly recommend it. I think it's pretty much just a no-brainer. And then on top of that, I wanted to talk about this new camera. Talk about cameras. This new R3 camera. I just wanted to put my 2 little cents in there because it seems like it's a very, very good and capable camera. But I do think that it's very niche for photographers only. So $6,000. And right away I'm hearing rumors of like, oh, this is going to kill the Sony A1 and all this stuff. Is like, first of all, no camera release is going to kill another camera. That's right off the bat. People might not like what I'm saying, but that's the truth. Right. Okay, I'm getting some messages. I'll take care of that later. So no camera is going to kill another camera. It's just like another option. And whenever a new camera company comes out with a new thing, I say we all win, right? Because we as the consumers end up benefiting from this. When Sony came out with their Sony Alpha 1, an incredible camera, an amazing camera, 30 frames per second, 50 megapixels. It is a monster. I was on a live stream when that camera was released or even announced, and I was like, guess what? You know who's going to benefit from this? Canon users. I go, Canon users are really going to benefit from this because it's going to put that onus on that company to come out with something even like as close as they can to that benchmark. And I don't think that it has the power, especially when you're talking about resolution. So 50 megapixels is down to half that, but you are getting the 30 frames per second. The biggest thing, the thing that I think that's the gimmick about this camera is this eye auto control. Now, I saw a couple of videos on it. A lot of people said that it was, that it was very good, that it works. It takes calibration, but even the guys from DP Review, they said that a couple of times they had to reconfigure the eye. Now, I do believe that that's something that Canon will work the kinks out with their final production model, so I don't see that as an issue. The thing is that if you actually start paying attention to the camera market, you start seeing that a lot of cameras right now are being sold even without EVFs. And for those of you who don't know, an EVF is an electronic viewfinder. So, like just for example, this camera here, this little box on the upper right hand corner, that's the electronic viewfinder. The new ZV-E10 doesn't have that. The Sony FX3, which is a cinema camera, doesn't have that. And it's tending to trend towards the new content creators who are using like an iPhone and transitioning and going from a screen in their hand like this to a screen in their hand like this, basically still doing everything from behind. So why I say it's a gimmick is because it's specific to photographers who actually used the viewfinder. So that is mostly like journalistic photographers, sports photographers, things like that, that are actually still using the viewfinder, who are maybe moving over from a DSLR, and their natural inclination is to go and move this onto their face so that they can see the action the way that they're used to, the way that they're comfortable with it. Because the people moving from 1DXs are used to that optical viewfinder and are not used to using the LCD. So that's who that camera is for, and that's why it's priced at $6,000. That's who it's for. Now, is it like the new camera that everyone's gonna get? Absolutely not. It is like very niche down to cater to this market, which I think is kind of tough because this is a camera that should have come out for Canon before the Olympics, right? Even though the Olympics were delayed for an entire year, that's where this camera should have shined. And this Olympics, Sony was very well represented out there when it came to shooting photography. So that's where I feel like that this camera is very gimmicky, because I could be wrong, but the way that I see it is that they're selling it with this eye detect autofocus, and it's almost like Samsung phones selling you a phone because you have the ability to hot swap battery life from one phone to another, right? So for those of you who don't know, Samsung has the ability to share power and have a phone give its battery life to another phone, basically become a wireless battery transmitter so that you can charge another phone. It is something that's available in Samsung phones. Ask any Samsung user who has actually used it. Nobody. So that's where I really see is the implementation is like the feature seems it seems incredible, but is it something that's going to be very functional? Is it something that, like, at the end of the day, even though you have it, right, you end up not using it? For example, my A6100 has touchscreen capability for video and for focusing. I would prefer touchscreen for the menus, because even though that's a feature that's available in my camera for video, right, for focusing, for rack focusing with the touch, I personally don't use it, and I turn off all the touch functionalities of my camera, because when I put it up to my face, my nose ends up touching the LCD, and then it moves my focus spot from where I had it to where my nose is. I'm left eye dominant, so it's always going to be close to the screen. And with that situation, right off the bat, I just shut off all touch functionality from behind the camera. And even though it's available, I don't use it. Now, in this case, Sony wasn't selling this camera saying, like, you need to get it with touch. But to me, that's where it falls into the category. And I could be wrong. If it is revolutionary, I stand to be corrected, But from what I'm seeing right now, it is being targeted. Like, this technology, the eye detect autofocus from Canon, can only be used when your eye is in the viewfinder. So as soon as you take the camera away from your face and start looking at it, or maybe start taking shots, you're back to the standard normal autofocus that you would get from any Canon camera, which is not bad, but that's where I see the gimmick falling into play. Because as a journalistic photographer, sports photographer, right? Let's say you were covering the Super Bowl. They just crowned the Super Bowl champion, right? They're celebrating. Take a look at the photographers and take a look at where their cameras are when they're taking the photos. Now, I'm going to back up to show you. Because when they're in the mix and the confetti is falling down, they're not like this. They have both hands completely up, and they're taking overhead shots to try to get as much of the ambiance of what's going on, to get as many people, and all of these shots are coming from a top angle. Right there, just in that particular case, just removing it away from your eye, that totally takes all of this high technology eye detect autofocus and throws it right out the window. So if you're a photographer that only uses the viewfinder, you're going to find value in that. Anyone else? And I'll tell you, I'm like, this camera, like, it would interest me even more because I'm a big proponent on viewfinders. I use them all the time. But when it comes to my eye detect autofocus with my Sonys, it's not my eye that is detecting, it's the subject. And it doesn't matter whether I'm using an EVF or if I'm using the back LCD or if I want to use touch to rack focus or touch to tracking. Everything that's available on my camera is available while I'm using the viewfinder or while I'm using the LCD. And I think that that's where the difference is. And that's where the gimmicky thing for me lies. And I'm not saying that it's not going to work. It's just for me. And that's where I said it's so niche because not only is it particular to photographers only, but only photographers that use the viewfinder. And that's where I say that's why they're selling it for $6,000 because it's particular to that niche of photographers. I think who they're selling it to are people who still have EF glass. They're gonna get an adapter, and they're gonna use the same, 70 to 200 f2.8 that they've had from Canon, the white one, and they're just gonna throw it on this camera and get the best that they can out of it. And that's what it is. It's going to be the movement of all of those photographers over to mirrorless. Excuse me. Okay, so let's get back to the chat here. Okay, just picked up an A7 III. So happy with it over the GoPro I was using. That's a huge difference. Like, nothing against GoPros, but that's an amazing camera, the A7 III. It says came with a 25, but it's a 28 to 70 kit lens, and picked up the 85 f1.5 or f1.8. Yeah. Well, is it the G that you got? If it's the G lens, now I didn't get the G lens. I got the Sony one, which is not G rated, but might as well be. If it's the 85mm f1.8, it's the same lens that I have. It doesn't really fall into the G category or the G master category, but it's such a great lens. Now, I would ask you what type of photography or video it is that you're trying to do, but those are two lenses that I have myself, or actually I sold my kit lens because I have the 24 to 70, the Zeiss, and it was just literally not doing anything. So I sold my kit lens, but I still have that 85 the 85 1.8. I use that lens for all of my portraits, and I use it with my full frame A7R2. Such a great combination. But I'm excited for you. That is a great pickup for the A7 III. Everyone's talking about the A7 IV. That's another rumor I'm trying to stay away from because it's literally all rumors. But that camera is gonna do a lot. And if now, I'll tell you the truth, now that the R3, right, from Canon, the one that we were just talking about, that one came out with the 4K 60. Don't be surprised if that's something that you'll see in the A7 R4. And I'm not guaranteeing it, but I would say don't be surprised. Assuming that it is available, and if they keep it within, the megapixel range, that it's not too high. It says, would love some more insight from you on adjustable or singular lens for streaming or recording. Okay, well, we can definitely talk about it and see exactly what your setup looks like to see what would be best for your setup, because everything has to do with your space. Like right now, I use the Sigma 16mm, gives me a 24mm, view, but it's also because I love how wide it is, and it makes this small space look a lot bigger, because that wall right there is not that far away. It just isn't. Like if you see where my hand is, where my hand is right here is halfway the distance. But with this lens, it really goes to show a lot more depth. It allows you to create a better image of this entire view. So, but out of those two, out of those two cameras, excuse me. Can you hear me? Are we hearing music? Well, we'll see. I thought music was playing. Okay. Out of those two lenses, you're most likely going to be using the kit lens at 28 millimeters, as wide as possible, to get, as much as you can in it, just depending on your space. But most likely you're going to be using the kit lens. And if you're using it at its widest, 28, the kit lens is actually a 3.5 aperture, which is not like the fastest lens, but it's actually faster than even my Zeiss, because that one is stuck at f4 throughout. So it goes to show you, it will give you the most amount of bokeh that you can, but the fact that you're on a full frame camera is going to add to that, separation of background. So it does make a difference. Just excited for you. That's a great pickup. It says, yeah, I have a problem with the EVF of my EOS R5. I find that my nose keeps touching the touch to focus. You see, look at that. That's exactly what I'm saying. The EOS R had an EVF that was a little further, which wasn't much of an issue. That's another thing. Here, let me show you my Fuji. This is something that I do, and this is just on another note, right? This is something that I do for all of my cameras. It's personal. Take a look at the eye cup on it. This is just my Fuji, but on my Nikon up there as well. And also, this is my Sony. See? I always buy like that $13, $15 eye cup extension. I vouch for these things. I think for me in photography, that makes it so much better for me. But also what it does is that it gives you separation. Let's see if we can. Separation from the screen here. Get it in focus, from the screen to this, so it gives you more of a space than having your face just flat up against it. And like I said, I'm left eye dominant. With this in my set, that's how it helps me keep my nose off of the touchscreen on these cameras. But thank you for letting me know that I'm not the only one whose nose touches the touchscreen. Okay, so I did miss some chat, so let me go back to it. Melanie says, the way cameras consistently come out makes me feel like I'm always have an irrelevant model. No, if anything, if I can put your mind at ease, Melanie, it is that any camera that has been made in the last 5 years is more than enough. Most of the people, right, who have like that FOMO, that fear of missing out, like I need to get the latest gear. Well, let me just say it because it's the truth, right? 90% of them are not maximizing the gear that they have themselves. And I've said this story before, but I'm gonna say it again. This camera right here, this is the Sony A7R2. I bought this camera for $1,000 2 years ago. Yeah, it's been 2 years already. So roughly 2 years ago, I bought that camera for $1,000. The reason why I bought that camera was because the owner of that camera, who barely used that camera, purchased it full price, barely used it, and felt like your comment said, felt like a new irrelevant model, like a new model came out and it made his irrelevant. He wasn't using his camera to the max, didn't know the possibilities and the capabilities. I know because I checked the picture counter, and when I got the camera, it was barely used. It was like buying a car with like 0 miles. So I got the camera, And as I'm talking to him about the transaction, about why he's selling the camera, he's telling me, yeah, I'm just selling this one because the A7R3, which is the model that precedes this one, came out and I didn't buy it. But then the new A7R4 came out, this 61 megapixel monster. And he's like, and I couldn't not buy that one. So then he spends another $4,000 on a camera when he has one already that he wasn't using. But now he sold this one to me for $1,000 just to recoup on some of the money that he spent on the other camera. And if you're wondering, this camera has already paid for itself with the work that I've done with it. And it's an absolute monster. 42.2 megapixels. And whenever anybody sees a photograph that I take from it, nobody's asking me, is that the 61 megapixel or is that this or what, or even what camera I'm using. The camera has to be an extension of you. And I always say, you know, all my slogans and my mottos, but to become the best photographer that you can be, the camera that you hold in your hand is the last thing that matters, because you will have an understanding of photography completely different, that you know that this is just a tool in your hand and you will make the most out of it. And that's it. So trust me. And I know, Melanie, you have plenty of good gear. There's nothing else that you need. And even though that, like, yeah, look, she even says it. I'm so happy with my Sony A7S III. That's a monster camera. That's a camera. Oh my God. That's a camera that you don't need to purchase a new camera for like 8 years, honestly. And even after 8 years that you might say like, hey, I've gotten really good use out of it, I want to get something new, it won't even be necessary. 8 years from right now, you can probably buy that camera new and still be like, wow, the 4K that I'm getting off of this 12 megapixel sensor is just amazing, because the image quality is all that matters. And the biggest difference between here and then is that there will be new lenses available for the Sony E-mount that will probably get you an even higher quality image that has nothing to do with the camera, which is why I say, you know, glass before ass. The optics are always more important. A7 IV, half price to the A7R3, almost the same specs. You see, that's kind of like what I was thinking, because if the A7R4, even if you were to bump it up from the $2,000 range up to $3,000, and I don't think that they would go that high, I would say $2,400, maybe $2,500. And if you're still charging $2,500 for an A7 IV, which will have more than the standard, which is what Sony standard right now, the 24.4 megapixels on their A7 III, and if they bump that up to the 32 megapixels or 33, how they were saying, with anything added increase and at the price of 25, that's gonna take the R3 and, you know, like, crush it. But that also is like, brings me back to what I was saying, like, it's not really crushing it because it's two totally different markets. The A7 R3 is going to be a lot more hybrid shooters, and this R3 is really catered to journalistic photography, sports photography. And I would say sports because it's not even like wild, like bird photography. I actually think that you would need, or you would want, a higher megapixel count, because you are most likely going to do some cropping after you do like the birds in flight and stuff like that. So that's where the difference is, and that's why I don't even see the R3, even though it shoots 30 frames per second with tracking all this stuff, to be like a birding wildlife photography lens. Just don't see it. I see it more sports, maybe big game, you know, so that you can, like, you're not going to be cropping in on these images and reducing the pixels. So that's where I see the R3 really falling into place, and that's why I think it's just a completely different monster. The R4 camera the A7R4 is more of a hybrid camera. It's something that you're gonna see wedding photographers and videographers using because they need the mix of the video with the photography and the high quality and the eye autofocus and the ease of use. That's where that camera is going to cater. So it's going to be two completely different, photographers, two completely different demographics of people who are actually going to be buying these cameras. And that's why the people who are going to spend the $6,000 for the Canon R3 are journalistic photographers. Maybe not even the journalists themselves, but the companies. The companies, they're gonna go out and they're gonna buy these cameras to be their new stable of cameras to hand out to their journalists when they go out to cover something. Kevin says, if your camera does what you want it to do, and you're getting the images and videos that works, then there's no need to upgrade or feel irrelevant. Exactly. And when you do stuff like that, then you can strike when the iron's hot. And this is what I do, right? I know about all these cameras. I usually talk to people about cameras, and I know more about their cameras in their hands than they do. And that happens so much that I'm like, oh, you got this with this and that and this specs. And they're like, huh? So with that being said, knowing that for a fact, if the camera does everything that you want it to do, then there's really no need to upgrade. I was very happy with my A6000 camera, and I had no reason to upgrade. I had a want. I wanted to start shooting in 4K, right? And that's when I grabbed this camera. See that little, let me flip it around. Boop, boop, right there. So I started shooting in 4K, and the only thing that I was shooting in 4K was not even like my talking headshots like this. I was still using my A6000. It was for all of my B-roll. But with that being said, right, I knew the value of my camera at that time. So I knew that my A6000 was about a $400 to $500 camera. I was just surfing OfferUp, and as I was checking it, I saw the A6100, its predecessor, its complete upgrade, 4K built into this little machine with all the latest updates of autofocus, firmware, like everything is in this one. And I saw it on the used market for $500, which was basically the same cost of my camera. So that's when I made the decision, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna pick up this camera and sell my other one. I ended up buying it for $500 and sold my other one for $480. So it was a $20 upgrade, and the only reason why was because I struck while the iron was hot. I saw the opportunity and I was like, this is a well worth upgrade for $20, especially when that camera, when I bought it, was still being sold for $750. So it was just like an absolute no-brainer. And then I had the 6100 with my A7R2, and I was like, I'm golden. I'm more than set. And the same way, right? Just biding my time, knowing what it is that I want to get out of my production. Another thing is, going back to Tom Buck. Tom Buck, before he got his latest Sony camera, and that's where he's at right now. I think it was last year where he was deciding, should I buy a new camera? What should I do? So on and so forth. He ended up buying another EOS R, which was the camera that he had originally. He knew it top to bottom. He knew what he can get out of it. And now he was just had another one exactly like it, giving him another angle because it was the camera that best suited him for him. And I bring that up because that's exactly what I did here. This is my new A6100. It is my second A6100 now. So now I have this angle here and the previous angle there matched identically, because the best thing for me and my workflow was to actually get another camera that was doing everything that I needed it to do. And why did I pull the trigger? Because Alicia Way also gave me an incredible deal on this camera that it was like stupid if I didn't buy it. Because I basically got it for $550. And this one was newer than this one when I got it. So to say that I got both of my cameras that I use for my live stream, two of them for the price of what someone would pay for one of them with a lens, I'm ecstatic. So that's where I recommend, upgrading your skills, knowing what it is that you're looking for out of the cameras, and then just waiting for the right deal to show up. Because that's all I did, and I've been super happy to have been able to add this second camera to my setup, and it falls right into place with what I was already doing. Are there newer cameras? Absolutely. Did I need them? She says so true on that. Okay, so I think we read that one. It says couldn't find the size chart. If you have any issues, send me a message or send Sylvia a message or a note through it, and we'll be able to get it taken care of. Okay. Some reason it went back. Okay, on my Nikon Z mirrorless cameras, when using the EVF, it turns off the LCD. Yeah, but I'll tell you the truth. It does the same thing for the Sony, but I don't think that it turns off. Now that you mentioned, it doesn't turn off the touch functionality because my nose does change the point. Says the Sigma 16mm f1.4 and 30mm Sigma primes are pretty well regarded in the streaming world, but it depends on your use case. Guys, I can't make this up. What you're looking at right now, this is the Sigma 16mm f1.4 that Kevin just said, and this is the Sigma 30mm f1.4. So both of the lenses that are highly regarded that Kevin was just talking about is exactly what I'm using for my setup, and I absolutely love Sigma glass. Like Sigma glass and Sony bodies, that is such a great combination for me. It says pretty much just do talking head style videos. Yep. So if it's like that, then you're gonna be looking, like we said, the widest. Real Raymond is in the house. All right. Let's see how far back I am. Oh, I'm 20 minutes behind. How are you doing, sir? Thank you for stopping by. If you are still here. Speaking of photography, it's always been interesting to me. Lots and lots to learn about it. That's why I love photography. I don't think that it's like a marathon with no end in sight. And some people would be like, "Oh, I don't want that." That's exactly what I want. Like, could you ever imagine something that you're passionate about, that that like no matter how much you dig into it, you're always gonna find something new. You're always gonna find something else to learn. And even if you think that you've learned everything, that's when you start breaking the rules to start seeing what other effects that you get out of it. So much fun. But I really don't think that there's a way that you can master photography, because you can master aspects of it, but then you can just open up a whole new world. Like a portrait photographer would know nothing about macro, right? Well, not nothing, but like really nothing when it comes to their expertise in portraits, and vice versa. So there's always new realms of photography to explore. Light painting. I follow this one guy on YouTube, and he was doing it's I forgot the name of it. I'm gonna not even try to mention it because I'll butcher it. But basically, what it is that as you're taking a long exposure photo, you're zooming while you're doing it in landscaping, which is giving like this like projection effect. So many different things, so many different like creative options or creative outlets that you can do with photography, that to me it's limitless. That's why I'm so passionate about it. My favorite Sigma lens is the 56 f1.4. 16mm is next. I've used the 30mm with the Bootcamp. Now since I have the MetaAdapt ETZ11, I can use Sony E-mount lenses on my Nikon cameras, which is good because you have a nice set of Sony glass, which, you know, that ETZ11 adapter, I think I would want to see what like the G Master 24mm f1.4 would look like on a Nikon camera. I would like to see what type of combination, like what type of file that you can get out of a Nikon camera with the sharpness and the clarity of that lens. That'll probably be a really sick combination. And the fact that you can get autofocus out of it, it's even crazier. Another YouTuber, Omar Gonzalez, he actually made a video about that ETZ11 adapter. He said that he had issues updating it. Let me know, Randall, if you actually updated yours or if you just used it straight out of the box. Still learning all the new to me camera stats. You're correct, the 28-70 kit lens. Also correct that the 85 is just the Sony one, not the G Master one. Sorry about that. No, but it's like I said, it's not about sorry, man. Like, we're all learning. It's just I'm very familiar with it, but that goes to show you, like, that's the same exact lens that I have right now. You can check me out on Instagram. You can see a lot of my portrait shots there, so that you can see exactly what I'm able to do with that combination, the 85 and the A7R2, which is what some people would consider a much older camera. But I've also mentioned this, and this is just FYI, if you're looking into get into the camera, the A7R series back then was their flagship, because that was before the A9 or the A1s or anything of that were even in existence. So they put everything into this camera. This one is worth it. If it's the A7 II, not really worth it. The A7 original, like, not worth it, just because of the limitations of the autofocus. And I'm not sure. I think the A7 II did have IBIS in it, but still, the autofocus is not that it's bad, it's just behind. So I would recommend, you know, for the price difference, definitely go up to that or the A7 III like Andrew has done, for the reason that it's going to be a lot easier for you. Like, the reason why I use Sony for photography is because of their face and eye auto tracking for photography. They're great with video, so that's an added bonus. But why I switched from Canon back then to Sony has to do with that, has to do with the workflow. And when I was shooting portraits, and it was easier for me to just know that I was gonna lock in the eye autofocus, and allowed me to focus on composition, everything else of the photos, that actually helped my, you know, like my final production of what I was producing at the end and what my final product looked like, because I was paying attention to the details, which I would normally have to try to fix in post, in edits. I was doing it in camera because I knew that I don't have to worry about, like, am I gonna miss focus on the eye? No, I know my camera had that on lock, so that was one less thing that I had to worry about, which, like I mentioned before, I think makes me more creative. I think it allows me to think about those other things, about the framing of the shots, to get that next level of productivity comparative to just, you know, worrying about focus points, right? Because, well, in my experience, when I was shooting Canon, I was more worried about getting the eye in focus, making sure that the correct focus point was selected out of the 9 that I had the ability to make sure that it was the closest, so that I can frame it the best, so that I can think about so many things that I would be thinking about. And because I was thinking about all of those things with the focus, I would notice that I would not see other things in the background, because while I'm trying to conserve light in taking these photographs, I'm focusing on the wrong things, which is the focus. Well, not the wrong things. It is the right thing, right? So if that's the camera that you have, make sure that you focus on the focus, because a sharp photo is usable and a blurry photo is not. But what I did notice was that once I moved over to Sony and that wasn't an issue, I spent a lot less time editing out other things like garbage cans and, like distracting elements within the photo itself, because I'm able to pay attention to them before they become a problem in post. That's my experience with it. When I tried to use the 85, it went from a normal talking head to a no-show. Exactly. As I said, like, that's a way too zoomed in. Great for photos, because that has to do with the compression and how you look, in the shot itself. But that's why I said, when it comes to your setup and what you're going to be doing with talking head, you're most likely going to be using the kit lens at its widest setting. But that's actually like really good. If the kit lens shines in one place, is video over even photography. And that's my opinion for that 28 to 70. One of the reasons why I kept it for so long was because I was using it for video for the APS-C cameras. My A6000, A6100, they do not have image stabilization. So like the Sigma that also doesn't have image stabilization could give you a shaky shot if you don't know what you're doing. But when I was hand holding it, I would use that kit lens with these, because the OSS, or the optical steady shot, was built into that lens, so giving me another level of stability in my video, even though my camera body didn't have it. That's one of the main reasons why I kept using that lens. So my opinion, it's way better for video, and that's what you're thinking about using it, you should be good, especially for the time being. And once you realize the focal length that you like, because maybe even if at 28 you might say like, I don't want the nose show, right, with the 85, but you might want to bring it to 30, maybe 35, a little bit closer. If you end up using it that way, then the lens that you'd be looking for to upgrade from the kit would probably be like a 35 millimeter. So learn which is your favorite focal length with the kit lens before you move on to anything else. I'm guessing Sigma prime lenses cause less distortion than zooms, because I use Sigma 18 to 35 f1.8 art lens, and it makes my nose look bigger and my ears look smaller than the 18 millimeter end. Well, yeah, the distortion is definitely there, but one thing that I've noticed, and this is just me, I think that lenses like this and that one there, when they don't have the OSS, when they don't have the optical steady shot, or the vibration control, vibration reduction, and the aperture gets locked, tends to give a much sharper image. And that's what I've noticed. All of the Sigma lenses that I've used, even the ones that I used when I was shooting Canon, I used not optically stabilized. So I would add the extra stabilization through shutter speed for photography. And with that, I would get extremely sharp images that sometimes when you're zoomed in with these extra, OSS, the camera sometimes try to do too much that end up actually causing blurriness in your shot, because it's not necessary. Like OSS in photography is not really necessary if you're shooting on a tripod. So if you are using a lens like that, like Sony G Master lenses give you the ability to turn off the stabilization. Actually, you know what? To think about it, the Canon ones did as well. The L series, like in particular the 70 to 200, has the ability to turn off the vibration control or the image stabilization, which ends up giving you sharper images, in my opinion. But distortion between the 16, 18, everything, yeah, that all makes a difference. That's why for portraits, probably the widest I'm gonna go is my 55 millimeter on my oh, that's this one. my Zeiss 55mm f1.8. Absolutely love this lens. Most likely my favorite lens. I love using this on my APS-C cameras for portraits because I get an 85mm equivalent, but I still get these Zeiss colors, which are amazing. This lens is just, it's magical. It's a magical lens. If you haven't heard about it, I have a video in my channel here talking about my favorite lens, and still till this day that is my favorite lens. So APS-C, definitely using that for portraits. I do use it on my full frame as well for portraits, and then also my 85, but I usually don't go under that. I'm not a 35mm portrait shooter. No. Okay, Deandra Blake is in the house. Welcome. Welcome to the Camera Junkie live stream. Says Sweetie's Cat World. Hello all. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by. Oh my god, look who's here. What's up? Just wanted to say hi. It's late for me. I could imagine. It's kind of late for me too. I'm on the East Coast. I always run Club Camera Junkie. So this usually tends to run from like 11 to 1 o'clock on the Eastern time. So, but it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. It's an honor to have you. Says the real Raymond. Not that the beauty mode is working. Okay. So we're laughing here. Okay, so Randall's asking if Lewis went to the dentist. I believe that was it. How you doing, Kim? Welcome to the live stream. Kim is also one of the amazing moderators who did an amazing job. Actually, like, Kim, you impressed me so much. Like, I was moderating, through, and I'm like going through the chats, and whenever somebody was asking a question, we're trying to pull it. Like, there was a lot of times where I had all the information, and she just beat me to it. And I was just like, Kim is fire. Kim is killing it with the moderating. That I was just there as like Kim's backup, but there was no backup needed. She nailed it. She was doing awesome. Super impressive, Kim. And that's the crazy thing. You heard about my my Stream Deck tip on the last day to have put like all of these presets in it already. You could have even been faster if you were using your Stream Deck, which is just amazing. Says the only two things I dislike on Ecamm is that I have to mess with my cameras with Elgato Ecamm using USB capture devices changing. That is not Ecamm, sir. I understand exactly what you're saying, but anyone who's experiencing this, just note that that's actually not Ecamm, that's Elgato. Elgato, each Camlink 4K gets registered into every computer exactly the same. So there's no differentiating from codes or anything like that. So every time you open up Ecamm, it's gonna see multiple 4K Camlink cards, and they're all gonna look identical. It's like if you were to take 4 of the identical anything and then just jumble them up, and every time to think that you're gonna get the same exact order when they're all named the same exact thing. So that's where it has an issue. For example, me, I have one Camlink 4K, and then my other one is not a Camlink 4K. It is the this kind, the USB that you get from Amazon. So I have an Amazon capture card, and that is my second angle here. And my first angle is my Camlink 4K. For that reason, I haven't had an issue, because whenever Ecamm opens up, it shows my Camlink 4K, it shows my other one, which just says generic USB, and then it shows my Epoch Cam in that order. Those are the 3 cameras that I have set up here, even though I don't have the Epoch camera phone set up. But those are the options that I have, and set in my scenes, I haven't had any issues whatsoever with it that way. But I also know from you and from experience of a lot of other people that the Camlinks is themselves, they don't differentiate their own names. So when you have more than one, it tends to get confusing, and that when you open up Ecamm, you will probably have to just reset each one to make sure that you're getting the correct connection. It's a little bit of a pain, I know. But I wish it was something that Ecamm could fix, because if they could, they would have already done it. And that's the awesome thing about the guys, you know, Ken and Glenn at Ecamm. If it's something that is in their power, they can. But a lot of times people are saying like, oh, the program doesn't do it, and it has nothing to do with the program. You will literally be running across the same exact problem with OBS, with Streamlabs, with anything that you use, just because that's the way that the Camlink cards communicate to your computer. That every time you just restart, it just won't know, because it's all exactly the same. Okay, it says the other one is when you time out a crasher and it deletes his message and it does not show that it has been put in timeout. Exactly. That is something, but that one is kind of tough, because to tell you the truth, if I wanted to get that type of, you know, feedback from the chat, what I would do is I wouldn't use the chat from Ecamm, right? The Ecamm makes it easier because it allows me to, like, for example, it says example, I'm going to delete this comment and Lewis will still see it, you see? And I put that back up because exactly like right now, we could probably go to the chat over here and see that that comment is deleted. Yep, at 12:19, and it's not in the chat, yet it's here because as soon as it gets hit in the chat, within seconds, it's pulled over here. So this pulling does have the ability to pull whatever information comes up, but it's not the same exact chat. It's not a direct link. That's why I'm actually able to bring these onto the screen. So it's you know, talking about that, Randall, there might be a way of changing that, but I think that's one of the minor things. Now, the Ecamm thing, I kind of think that is one of the bigger issues with it. But in all sincerity as well, that's not something that's really has to do with Ecamm. That's just me knowing computers and programming and knowing what the real issue is. Okay, Raymond says, the law is that if you don't use the absolute latest camera, then you're not a real photographer, videographer. That's the law. I stand corrected. The real Raymond just said, if you don't got the latest and greatest, you ain't about it. You ain't about it. Randall says, I'm doing a video on the ETZ11 after this stream. That's great. I can't wait to see it. And maybe you will answer the questions that I had of, like, you actually used the updater, like, little clip. If you updated or just used it. Kevin saying, everyone hit that thumb. Make sure it's smashed. I appreciate it. I updated it and used it out of the box. With the update works better. The problem is that the manual is in Chinese. Go to the website to watch their videos. You know what? Mr. Omar Gonzalez said the same exact thing. He put it in his videos like, this is all completely in Chinese. What he did was that he used his iPhone with an app, I think, called Google Translate, which translates all the text in real time, and that's how he was able to use that manual and get it to work. Says the autofocus is the exact reason why I jumped on the ZV-E10 from the Panasonic land. Oh man, you must. I can't even tell you. Like, if you were to jump to the Sony A6100 from Panasonic land, that's an old camera. Like, you would have noticed such a huge difference. The ZV-E10 is amazing. If you've watched Miss Diana's stream, you also have to be careful with it. And this is just precursor, you know, the product showcase, which means is like, if you were to put anything here, right, it will zoom into it. But let me show you what the difference between product showcase is. this is still the closest thing to the camera, right? But if I move it here and it gets a whiff of my face, even though the camera is the closest thing to it, it will not focus it because it recognizes my face, so it's gonna lock onto my face. That's what it does. So the way we've been doing it this entire time before the ZV-E10, before the ZV-1 and product showcase, was you basically cover your face and then it will highlight anything. Once you remove it, it locks back onto your face. There is one advantage, because the ZV-E10 with the product showcase, anything that you put in front, right, the closest thing to the camera, even if my face is in the shot, it will focus on this. But like Miss Diana Gladney was having an issue with, was that her microphone, right, actually like the bottom part of her SM7B is closer to the lens than her face is. So while the product showcase is on, when she brings something up to the camera and it focuses on it, it's great. But as soon as she takes it off, it focuses on the microphone and not on her face. So different things like that. I actually think the easiest way to fix that with the product showcase is to actually use product showcase, but not leave it in the wide zone. So for example, right now my autofocus is the entirety of like the screen that you're seeing. So this is my autofocus zone. Anywhere where I'm in it here, it's going to recognize my face and lock onto it. But if I were to leave the shot like I'm going to right now, right, it's now focusing on my microphone here because it is the closest thing to the camera without my face being in the shot. As soon as my face comes back into the shot, it focuses on my face. So what I'm thinking is that instead of moving or having the wide, you would literally just move it into a zone box. Still use the product showcase, because right now if I were to put a zone box right here, eliminating my microphone, right, and this is the focus zone, I can still use the same product showcase and be like, hey, this is my MX Master Mouse, right, cover it up. And even if my face shows in it, it will still give you the product showcase mode. And then as soon as I come out of it, it's going to bypass this, which is not in front of its direct box, but back to my face, giving it, you know, the correct autofocus. So that's one of the features. And or that's even if you have a microphone in your shot. So asterisk, right? If you have a microphone in the shot, if for whatever reason you're using a boom mic, and there's nothing in between, then you wouldn't even have a problem whatsoever with product showcase. It would just be your face and then anything that you put in front of the screen, in front of the lens. Excuse me, need to hydrate. Okay. Scott Rogers is here saying, do I smell Krispy Kremes? I think you do, sir. Did you bring some? I think you need to make sure to bring some Krispy Kremes. Let me know. Drop some donuts in chat. It says, had to skew the USB connection to adapt. Watched Phil Tack's video on how to connect it, right, at an angle. That's funny because that's the same thing that this guy had to do, Omar. So it looks like that's exactly what's been going on with that adapter. But then he also said that once he did the update with that adapter and he got it to work, that, you know, that everything started working correctly. So he was kind of happy with that. Features and price made it a no-brainer for me. I was already looking at the A6400 and the A6600, and they started leaking the ZV-E10, held out for that to launch. It's a great deal, Kevin. You did a great job, because for the price, for entry level, for what you're going to be using it for, man, that's going to be perfect for you. It is. Speed and the autofocus after the updating. Okay, speeds up the autofocus after you update it. Nice. Well, that makes a huge difference. Autofocus is so important. Which is, look, I watch YouTube. We all do, right? I'm a camera junkie. I love watching all the camera reviews. A lot of times I just play them and I'm listening to them to just like let the information seep in. And I love watching, the DP review guys. And whenever they do a review of cameras, right? They have a bunch of different categories of like, oh, this is the best at this and this is the best. Every single review that I see, no matter what has come out, Sony always ends up being the best at two things: autofocus and battery life. And there you go. Two of the most important things: autofocus on lock, battery life hella on lock. I can't even tell you the difference, because like I can't even emphasize the difference, because the amount of shots that you get on a camera like with this battery, and then you go to the Sony, right, and you compare it, and you're almost doubling the amount. Like you can get 340 shots on this one, and just 700, 800 shots on a battery life. Now I believe the new Canon's got that big boy battery, but you know what? There's so many funny things about that new Canon R3, and let me just add this last little 2 cents, because I laugh at these things, right? People talk, right, when they don't want to move into like the new mirrorless technology, and they'll be like, "Oh no, I need a DSLR. I need the weight." Listen to what I'm saying. I need that extra weight, that girth in the body, so that it could handle these big honking lenses. And I'm like, okay, I think totally different. I wouldn't mind a light little, body on the back of this heavy lens, because the lens is already heavy. Let me control the lens, which is 90% of your image, and have a very light camera just sitting on the back getting good images. Because if you can have a camera with all these specs and it just looks like a lens, you would want that as well. You understand? Because it will be like less things that you would have to carry. So with that being said, I find it funny that they come out with this new Canon R3, and one of the selling points that they have on it is like, this thing weighs 70% less than the 1DX. And I'm like, weren't you guys the one talking about it? You wanted that extra weight for these big bodies, and that's why you want the big camera body for the big lenses, and now you're advertising less weight because you went mirrorless? I just find that a little ironic. I find that funny, because the light gear is such a huge factor. The weight of the gear is such a huge factor. It says, looking at older videos of my large YouTubers, the Sony A73 seems to be the camera that got many vloggers to switch from Canon. Yeah, that it's still such a great camera, and that's what I'm saying. If you were to buy that camera right now, and you'd be like, and it does 4K 30, 4K 30, 24, video done so well, photography done so well. It is one of the best hybrid cameras, that a jack of all trades, still till this day. That's why I also don't see that Sony is going to be coming out with the predecessor to it all too soon either. People might be asking for it, but Sony could just be like, we have a lot already available, no real rush. Vloggers use the Canon because Casey Neistat made the 70D popular in the 80D. The disappointment of the Canon vloggers, including Casey himself. Yeah, and let's not even get into my flip up versus flip out, because that's the whole thing. Like, I used Canon. I know that they're very capable cameras, right? And even me using Canon cameras, I saw the benefits of the flip out screen versus the flip down screen. And even Sony's flip up screens prior, because that's the whole thing. It's not just any flip screen or flip up screen. The flip up screen on the A6000 series is the one that I think is the best. The flip up screen on the A5100 absolute garbage. It is one hinge. So as soon as actually, do I have that Sony camera here? Give me a second. I wasn't gonna get a step ladder. Okay. This is the Sony CyberShot. Which one's this one? This is the HX80. Yep, the HX80. A bit dusty, so let's just... Okay. I'm showing you this camera, right? For one reason. The flip up screen on this camera is the same as the 5100. You see it on the back? Flips up. It's on a single hinge. Right? So here, selfie. Here, maybe a little low. But then flat, absolute garbage. Because this is just not the best functioning camera with this setup. Now, the fact that my A6400 can give me an angle like this down, then extend completely outward, be completely flat, be here, be front facing. It, even though it's a flip up screen, it has all the options as well for regular photography, is why I feel that this is the best iteration of flip up screen, and this is what I prefer. But if you give me a flip up screen like this on a hinge, no way. That's not a... That to me is not a good, like, compare this to a fully articulating flip out screen. Give me the fully articulating flip out screen. It is better technology. Now, flip up screen on my A6100 compared to the flip out screen, give me this flip up screen. It's what I prefer. I think this is the best iteration of flip up screens, in my opinion. Hashtag team flip up. That's what I use. Okay, Art Carrasco's in the house. How are you doing, sir? Thank you for catching a live. Says, I caught your last video, buddy. That was upgrade is looking good. Okay, so Art saw Andrew's latest video. Says, Kevin Cox 6400 has the flash. Do not need the stabilization of the A6600. So Art saying, what's up, Lewis? I was creeping for a while, driving, running errands. It's called lurking. Creeping is a whole different thing, right? But when it comes to the internet and the live streams, you're lurking in the backgrounds. Excuse me. But always a pleasure to have you here. Says, Kevin says, I went with the ZV-E10 because it will be mostly a streaming and very occasional photos. Looking at the used market, it wasn't much more to get the newest technology. Yeah. It's the price point, you know? Like, there's a lot of people who are saying, like, it's a cheap camera. It's not a cheap camera. It's an inexpensive camera. I don't think anything that Sony makes is cheap. But, the autofocus features on that camera really did impress me. And this is just from me watching like the unboxings and some of the setups that Diana Gladney went through right away when she got her ZV-E10. And just some of the features of me knowing Sony's menu systems and how they work. The full functionality of like the rack focusing speeds and stuff like that. It definitely leans more towards the cinematic side. It leans more towards the video functionality, and you know, for live streaming and everything like that, it's perfect. Kevin, talking about that, you use Ecamm, right? I use Ecamm. Ecamm, these guys are killing it. The camera connects directly natively via USB-C with no additional like software needed. Just plug it in and it recognizes it as a webcam. Ken and Glenn are taking it to the next step because I believe that camera gets limited to 720 when in that mode, but they're going past that. So if you decide to get the ZV-E10 and you're using Ecamm, they're working on 24 and 30 frames in the 4K to be able to be broadcast directly from the camera via the USB-C connection with nothing else additional added. So you will be able with Ecamm to maximize the most out of that camera. And like I said, not necessarily that you need to do it, but the fact that they have the ability there that if you want to do a 4K stream and you have that tech built into the camera in Ecamm, meaning you do not need a video capture card. You don't need either a $20 extra video capture card or the $120 Elgato 4K cam link. You don't need either of those, just USB-C cable, and get 4K 24 and 4K 30 directly out of the camera. That's sick. Kevin says, I believe Keith was saying unplug the cam links after you're done using them and plug them in the same order each time, and they will stick with the Ecamm scenes. Wow, but I'm just reading this and I'm like, Mr. Pelzer does that with all 10 of his cameras each stream? Man, that seems like that's a lot of work. It says mostly yes, did that, and I still have to mess with the Ecamm to fix the scenes. Well, we're always fixing scenes on Ecamm. Every once in a while, even me, like I just like Doc Rock says, you nuke and pave. Basically, just wipe everything and just start new so that you're just building the screens up. Last time I did that, it really helped me out because we're always experimenting new things with Ecamm, trying out new things, and I was doing the same. And then you see like all the remnants of like scenes that I forgot to delete, that I only used once or something like that, and they were just sitting there, and now that they're just completely gone, it just makes things run better. It's an API issue, like I just mentioned. Okay, we're having a conversation. So, Art, thanks, man. I'm so happy with the new look to the channel because of the camera. Oh, I definitely gotta check it out, Andrew. Most of the time, that type of comment isn't going to be pulled into the stream's producers anyways because it sticks out spammy or trolly anyway. I noticed that just a bit of time, the ZV-1, not as much as Diana did the ZV-E10. It says, I noticed that a bit from time to time on the ZV-1, not as much as Diana did with the ZV-E10. Not really sure exactly what we're talking about there, but I will continue. Peter Gregg is in the house, sending love and a thumbs up. Thank you, Peter. Always a pleasure to have you here, sir. I can't wait to see your stream for tomorrow night. I'm going to do my best to catch that. Oh, Kevin got it right there. He got them Krispy Kremes in the house. We got the donut squad. Okay, so Raymond is saying hi to Peter. He's saying you got hops. I love it. No, man. Puerto Ricans can't jump. Talking about that, man. I haven't played basketball in years. I would probably be very disappointed in my athletic ability right now. Says that has been the hardest adjustments is the menus in Sony. Let me English, Lewis. Let's do this. Okay. I understand, right? They could be a bit daunting, but I just got a new A6100, right? And what it has allowed me to do is to see how the menus were set from the get-go comparative to the way that I have them after a year of just tweaking them and setting them up. And man, I can tell you, I did do a lot of configuring the menus, but what I also realized is that once I did that, I haven't had the need to go back into the camera. Like when people start talking about menus, if Canon users are constantly in the menus, because I'm trying to go back to see like how I used my Canon camera myself, which I don't think I was in the menus that much, right? There was plenty of buttons on the outside that allowed you to control the camera the way that you wanted to. But the Sony system, with the memory presets and my knobs already preset, I can tell you that I barely go into the menus. I've had more fun checking out the menus of like the stock A6100 over here than it is me actually going into the menus myself. So if there's one thing that I can say is like, yeah, they could be a little daunting at first because there's so many subcategories. If you were to just take a little bit of advice, I believe me and Doc talk about that on his live stream, where, you know, if you're watching a television program, right, or maybe even this live stream, right, you could be hanging out watching this live stream, listening. If you have your camera, just play with the menus, see what it does for you. And the thing is that these cameras are so customizable that I will tell you, be careful which mode you are in. Because if you're in the video mode, you're going to get another subset of menus that are not going to be available for photography because they do not apply. So the settings that you set for video mode will be different than the ones that you set for your photography. And when you switch from mode to mode, the camera will keep those settings and memorize everything for it. So, for example, this camera here, I don't use clear image zoom for anything, right? But clear image zoom is something that I would only use for video. So I set up the clear image zoom to be on a custom button right next to the shutter or the record button, right next to the dial that gives me the ability to do the clear image zoom in and out. So it's a single button press, single dial adjustment to hit record exactly where I want. And I have that all set up, configured in the movie setting. As soon as I go into manual for photography, there's no clear image zoom. I'm not using it. You know, it's a completely different thing. So that's how customizable the Sony menus are. That's why, like I said, I agree they could be a bit daunting, even though the ZV-E10 is supposed to be easier. But FYI, I got the new camera because of the same reason that the menus are so daunting, that I had already decided that I was going to make a settings video for the A6100 for that reason. I'm going to go page by page, what the things mean, and how I would set them up for me, and the differences of how I would set it up for video comparative to photography. And that's where I'm having a little bit of like trouble, because I think I'm gonna have to separate them as two different videos. It's like I will have to set A6100 photography settings and then A6100 video settings, because like I said, it's two categories and there's so many differences in the configuration of the menus that I think I'm gonna have to separate them. Kevin says, I saw that the other night, caught the replays of Alicia's unboxing stream from when I was out of town. It was unreal when he did that. My jaw just hit the floor. Okay, so you're talking about him just plugging in the ZV-E10 directly, and the image that he got out of it is pretty impressive. And still, what you saw from Alicio, that's the 720. That's what I'm saying. So 720 still looks great. And the reason why I think it's capped at 720, and this is just my own personal thought, is because the 720 limit allows you to stream anywhere and everywhere. Meaning, even the most stringent type of live streaming platforms like Amazon Live, they only stream at 720. So if you were to try to stream at a higher bit rate, it will not allow you through Amazon. If you're someone who doesn't know that, this camera you can just plug and play and everything will be set for you so that you know that you'd be able to stream wherever you desire. So for that reason is why I think that they decided on that limit for 720, that and the bandwidth aspect. But the fact that Ecamm is already going above and beyond that, saying, hey, if you want to get the most resolution, you know, if you're a pixel peeper and you want to get the most out of this camera, we're still giving you the ability to go full 4K natively without a capture card just by using Ecamm. That alone could be worth your Ecamm subscription for the year. And if you're interested in Ecamm because you're seeing my production, you like what we can do, how you can adjust the audio, how you can add your sound effects, how you can bring the comments onto the screen, just know that there is a link down below in the description where you can try your 14-day trial of Ecamm. I highly recommend it if you haven't done so already. FYI, this is a Mac only program, but it is so good that I basically just got into a Mac computer to do this stream because of how good this program is. And the best part of Ecamm, hands down, is the community. I've mentioned that also before. The Ecamm community on Facebook and, you know, within the works themselves, the company itself, the community manager, Doc Rock, the owners and makers of this program, Ken and Glenn, they write all the code. These guys are incredible. It's just a really good system, and what you get out of this program is incredible. It is a full production suite. It says, LOL, lurking sounds more innocent. I prefer creeping. Hey, to each his own. So you want to creep, you're gonna creep. Reminds me of TLC back in the day. Says, I don't think he does that, but he was explaining for someone who only had 2 cam links. Okay. That was product showcase mode with the Diana comments. Oh, okay, got it. I just need to spend some time. It's just not there yet. It's initial setup, but getting how it wants. Lewis English. Okay, I swear I know this stuff. Is that the initial setup is getting to how I want it? That's how it's been an adjustment. Absolutely, man. It's just a time period, but like I said, anything that you take your time with, it doesn't matter, because for my example, I this could just be me, right? I found Sony menu systems, no matter how complex you can say that they are, which they are, I found navigating my first Fuji camera through menus to be a lot harder. And I'm gonna give you my example, a lot harder for this reason. I'm gonna show you once again my cameras. Look, what I'm showing you here is this little thing right here. On the autofocus, manual focus switch, right? You see this little button right there on top? That is a spot of hot glue. You could also find a video on my channel about that called the 2-minute camera hack. What I do is that I actually, let's see if I can get a good vision of it. It actually protrudes now on the back. I have that set up because as a photographer, I use what's called back button autofocus. Meaning whenever I want my camera to focus, I'm pressing that back button. It's doing all the working of autofocus just as if I had done half a shutter press. The reason why I do this preferably is because it allows me to shoot off a lot more shots without it having to move the focus. So for example, let's say I was doing a portrait shot. I focus on you, right? Every time I shoot a shot, it's going to capture that image. As soon as I take my finger off of the back button autofocus, I can continue to press the shutter button and it's going to lock and leave that same focus and take multiple shots, allowing my camera to work faster and me to work smarter. For this reason, that once I have acquired the autofocus, I can take as many shots as I want in that focus, knowing that my camera is set to where I want it. comparative to setting the autofocus to the shutter, that every time I release and press the button itself, it will hunt and reacquire focus when I already had it from the back button. So that is the advantage to back button focusing and why I use it. It was one of the hardest things to utilize the Fuji menu systems to get this to give me that same back button autofocusing. So I'm going to show you back here. As you can see, once again, my cameras with my little hot glue buttons, because that's something that I do to all my cameras. Literally, here's my another camera, hot glue buttons. FYI, another tip why I do that is that while my eye is on the viewfinder, I can feel which buttons are what, and instead of them all feeling the same. Whenever I feel the button that protrudes, I know that that's where I'm at. I also know how to navigate the rest of my buttons from that central point because I know what's up, behind it, so on and so forth. So pro tip, that's why I use my little hot button fix and add a little dab of hot glue on top of my preferred buttons, especially the one that I use for my back button focusing. It totally helps out my production and my photography. Kevin has a question, says, are you able to remap that button from photo modes that you have set to clear image zoom in video modes? Yeah, that's exactly what I had mentioned. My clear image zoom set is only in video mode because I will have no use for clear image zoom in photography, right? What clear image zoom does is that it takes this image right here, right, and this high quality, high definition image, and what it will do is that it will crop in on the image itself or on the sensor so that you're not adding pixelation, you're just like zooming in on the actual lens, which is hypothetically exactly what a crop sensor does comparative to the full frame. It doesn't lose the resolution or the quality, it just cuts down on the actual image, giving you more of a zoomed effect because you're blowing up that image. That's what clear image zoom does. You don't need that in photography. In a still shot, in post-production, you have the entire image and you're able to crop in because there's nothing that's moving. So you're able to crop in, adjust the angles exactly to where you want it, and then you cut out that, that image, and that ends up being your final product. That's why you would not use clear image zoom in photography. You could, but it's mostly to me for video, right? So for me, seeming that that's how I would use it more than anything, on this camera over here to the right, I basically just set it up to my C1 button, which is right next to the shutter, and then the knob on the top ends up giving me the zoom in and out. So whenever I'm in video mode and I'm holding it like running gunning, I'm able to press that button, get a little bit more zoom out of my prime lenses and not lose any quality or resolution. But because, like I said, not going to be used for photography, that mode is only on my video mode and on nothing else. So I won't have any use for clear image zoom except it's on video. Andrew says, gotta go. Love the stream though. Catch y'all. Hope to have a great Sunday, Friday. Yeah, you too, sir. Have a great week, and letting you know from right now, I'll see you next week. Take care of yourself, and I will see you then. Yeah, we're getting close to the end here. Kevin saying bye. Says, drop that affiliate link here in the chat. Not letting me grab it to share. Which one is that? Kevin, because I've been talking so much. Which affiliate link were you talking about? I think that's why I struggle a bit. I started with Canon, the T5i, which is a great camera. Then I went to Panasonic, now Sony. It's just the difference that takes the time to break those old habits and ways of thinking. Yeah, but like I said, I tell you the truth, like I really like the Fuji camera, but that one did take me a lot longer. Like I had to Google search a couple of things on like, how do I get to this menu? To me, I felt like I was making settings changes, right? And like the camera wasn't saving them. It just wasn't saving them. So when I would go back to it, I'm like, everything that I just did about ISO ranges and everything, it's all lost. And it was being all lost because I wasn't saving it correctly, which I found interesting. I was like, oh, that's a lot different, because it's almost like you had to like save it to a particular profile so that then you can access your changes later. And it has an advantage because I believe that Fuji camera has more available slots for these changes, but they seem a lot harder to change when you just want to change one thing out of that entire set compared to everything else. Doesn't make it a bad camera. I actually have been enjoying it a lot, kind of like a film camera, you know. To show you again, it's a Fuji camera, but what I'm using on it is a vintage 1960s Helios vintage Russian lens. So fully manual. And the combination that I get of vintage lenses with the Fuji film simulations, absolutely love it. I've been doing a lot of photography with that camera as well, like personally. I'm thinking I'm also going to try to see if maybe I share some of that with you guys. Also, let me know if this is something that you guys are interested in. If you guys are interested in maybe doing like a photography challenge, something where we can look at your work as well. These are all thoughts that I'm having for future episodes of the live stream, to see, you know, what you guys are interested in. Oh, Kevin says the Ecamm link. He says, what Fuji is that? That's the XT1. Like, that's a really good camera, not good for video. Great for photography. Like, it doesn't have clean HDMI, has a lot of limitations. It was before the new ones, the XT2 and everything like that is good. I picked that one up for that same reason. I picked it up because I wanted to use the film simulation of Fuji with my vintage lenses. And I'll tell you the truth, Fuji owners, they don't sell their cameras, so I'm always in and out of the used market, and you'll find Canon, you'll find, you know, like Panasonics, you'll find Sonys, you'll find Nikons, but to see a Fuji camera hit the used market, in my experience, super rare. South Florida, super rare. Fuji owners, like, even if they upgrade and they buy a new camera, they just keep their old cameras. They just don't sell it. So I saw this camera, the guy was selling it for $300. I offered him $200 and I was able to get it for $200. So I was like super happy. I bought a $13 adapter and then started using all of my my vintage lenses on it. So for $200, a great deal. Then on top of that, I found this, the kit lens for the Fuji. This is the Fuji 15-45 kit lens. The kit lens surprised me. It's not my favorite lens, and I'm going to make a comparison of that lens with this lens, which is the 16-50 from Sony. There are pros and some cons, like the close focusing, almost like macro focusing on that Fuji lens is incredible, especially at 15 millimeters where it's like so wide and you're able to get so close to subjects. It really did impress me on that aspect. The zooming in and out of the power zoom is where I think is flawed, because it's very choppy. There's no smoothness into the zoom. It's almost like almost like a stepping motor. So that's the biggest flaw. But I was able to get that lens on the used market for $50 shipped to me. So to say that I got my XT, was it $50? I think it was $100. Don't get me wrong. I think it was more expensive. I think I paid $100. So the totality of my kit lens with my Fuji XT1, which I bought last year, I got for $300, which was a steal when it comes to the fact that you can't even find used Fuji lenses. I mean, Fuji cameras at all. So the fact that I was able to find it, get it, and I've had it, and I've been very happy with it, super ecstatic. And the looks that I get of that combination of my vintage lenses with that camera, I personally loved myself. But like I said, I do a lot of photography for myself. I do my portraits for my clients, but most of my photography is for me. So I have just a lot of fun, you know. Makes sense, right? Being a camera junkie. Says just enough out of focus to not be able to tell. Well, I guess. Ooh, sorry about that. Let's see. See, XT1, and I'll tell you the truth. A Fuji camera is like the adult fidget spinner. All these knobs and dials, they are so awesome. But once I was able to get the back button focusing on this Fuji camera, was when I really started using the kit lens more than anything, because it allows me to get what I want out of the photos. If not, it's gonna have a vintage lens, and to tell you the truth, a surprise lens. Yes, it all came back to me. I bought the kit lens and I got this one. I believe it's like a $200 or maybe a $250 lens. This one I was able to get for $100 on the used market. The steal that I got, which I was very surprised, was this one. I got this one on eBay. This is also Fuji. This is the Per Gear. Let me get that branding on the right. Per Gear. This is a 35mm f1.6. And look at how small that lens is. Take the lens hood off of it. Look at this tiny little pancake 1.6 lens for the Fuji. Oh, you can see me there backwards. Well, the fact that you can see me goes to show you how crystal clear and sharp this lens is. The images that I've gotten off of the Fuji camera with this lens has really surprised me. This lens is extremely sharp, and to know that this is like a budget lens, like I believe you can buy it new for about $100. I got lucky and I found it on eBay for $30 with shipping. So I was like, $30 for a lens. Let's try it out. Wow. I've been really impressed with the results that I've gotten from that little lens. And that's straight third party, Per Gear. Kippy says, I love my Fuji. It's just something about them, and love the images that has been able to produce. Yeah, I take nothing away from it. Right now, Fuji, for those of you who don't know, announced some lenses that are going to be more video centric, meaning kind of like the same thing that I had said, like the way that camera, that lens zooms, the kit lens, that is like very choppy, probably makes a bunch of noise with the autofocus and stuff like that. These are all things that are going to be taken care of in these new lenses, which is Fuji basically acknowledging, knowing that video is a very big important part of content creation now, and the reason why people are buying their cameras. So for that reason, they're putting a little bit more emphasis to give people what they want. Fuji colors have always been great. Like, that's another thing, you know. And Kippy, you let me know what you think. Everyone rants and raves about Canon colors, and I think I've been more impressed with Fuji colors. Sometimes I look at these images on these Fuji and they're like JPEGs, right? With the film simulations, and they have limitations. Like, one of the film simulations that I put on the Fuji requires it to be at ISO 800. So everything is like if I was using an ISO 800 type film to get like that extra airiness, extra brightness, and then control the exposure using that as your base ISO also adds a particular type of graininess to it because you're not getting the most clean image. But then with the simulation that Fuji does, it's amazing. It's amazing. So what they do, they're doing it very well. And yeah, I just like it for my own personal photos. So if you were to get that type of look in those colors in video with a good lens, Fuji ain't going nowhere. I think is the link to Leap Into Live and the Ecamm. I think he was talking about both. He had mentioned that it was the Ecamm link. You know what? Let me try to do that right now. Oh, okay. I see what's going on. Thanks for bringing that up, Kevin, because what it looks like is that the Ecamm, they truncated it. So I think it's longer and they put those three little dots. Whenever you see a hyperlink with the three dots, it's only going to give you the link with the three dots because you're literally copying the text and it won't give you the full hyperlink. So let's just do this. Copy that. And we're going to put that there and we're going to hit enter. So that's the full link to the Ecamm for anyone who's interested. Now the Leap Into Live, that's the one that I don't have. That's all through emails. I'm not gonna go in through that mess right now. That's a whole nother conversation. I would love to know, like, how many email accounts do you have? Because I have so many. They're all linked into my iPhone, so I have pretty good control over them, but still just too many. I'm thinking I'm just gonna consolidate and close out a couple of them. Okay, Randall says it's 1:30 and it is. He's saying goodnight. Kevin's saying goodnight, saying bye. Is Fuji a Micro Four Thirds sensor? No, Fuji is APS-C. They are APS-C, the same exact size as Sony sensors APS-C, not because it'll give you the 1.5 crop, not the 1.6 that you get from Canon. A little bit of information for you, Kevin, and for anyone who's catching the replay. I am gonna be doing a test, so let me go ahead and just let me set this up real quick so that I can show you exactly what's going on. This is the Sony NEX6. See it there, NEX6. This has a 16.1 megapixel X-Trans sensor. Remember that I said that, X-Trans sensor. This is the Fuji X-T1. Has a 16.1 megapixel X-Trans sensor. Purchased from Sony. Now, if you were to check some reviews on the Fuji X-Trans sensor, they did change the X-Trans sensor from this first model, from the X-T2 and so on and so forth. The sensor in that camera is the same exact sensor as this camera. And if you were to check some reviews on the NEX6, a lot of people would say, hey, this camera tends to give me a very filmic look. The colors out of this particular camera were very different than the other Sony cameras because of that X-Trans sensor. So I have these two identical camera sensors of two camera bodies so that I can test out the differences between these two lenses. So the test that's going to come out is going to be the testing of Sony's kit lens, which is a 16 to 50, comparative to Fuji's 15 to 45. They're both the kit lenses. They both are as small as possible. As you can see, Sony's is smaller. They both do extend larger to get the differences in the APS-C, but the images are going to be very, very similar. So the comparison is going to be the best comparison that I can give up to date, because the resolution of the images are going to be exactly the same as 16.1. They're going to be coming off of different camera bodies, obviously, because they are two different systems, but it's the closest that you can get into comparison because they are using the same exact X-trans sensor, which is what most people don't know. So we're going to be able to see the differences in the sharpness and the quality of these kit lenses and the glass, and I'm going to have a lot of fun doing so, because I'm really going to see the difference and, you know, take it for what it is. I've noticed the difference. I really like the images that I get out of this NEX6. That's why, even though it's an older camera, I still have it. And this is how I've been using it mostly. I've been using this Pancake 2.8 20mm, which gives me like a 30mm equivalent, which is good for like street photography, and that's what I use it for. This is so small, excuse me, so small and compact, it goes with me pretty much anywhere. And because it's a used camera that I got extremely cheap, I bought this camera with the kit lens for $100 even, just because it was like an offer that I put. The guy was selling the camera. He's like, whoever wants it gets it today. I offered him $100. Actually, I offered him $125, and he bit. And I was like, that's worth it for $125. Then when I got there, I saw that even though it was working, it had this crack at the bottom of the LCD. See, get it? There we go. This small crack. Like I said, it doesn't affect the camera itself or the LCD. Everything is working fine. Let's see, like, just show you. See? But once I saw it and I had made the trip to Miami to pick up the camera, I was a little like, yo, man, you didn't tell me that it had a crack, so on and so forth. I was going to walk away. I got an extra $25 off of it for the crack, so I picked it up for $100, and I've been super happy with it for all of those convenient factors. It's allowed me to keep other cameras, and whenever I just want to grab one and go, I usually end up taking that one. Another thing is that even though it's an older camera and it's super small and thin and compact, the thing that you can see right here is this little wear and tear, and you see how it's silver. It's silver because it's magnesium alloy. This thing is a tank. This thing is like pretty much like drop proof metal construction, not plastic, extremely lightweight, extremely compact. And for my, like I said, my own personal photography, my own street photography, just up and down in my car all day, this is a camera that I've been using a lot lately, and I really like the results, because believe it or not, even though it's Sony, this camera in particular is probably the closest that you can get to like a film simulation type of camera with Sony right off the get. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so Skippy says, I agree. Fuji colors are really quite beautiful. I'm still biased towards Canon, but I pick up a Fuji all the time when I want to be in light and nimble. Yeah. And that's another thing. You know, Fuji always tends to be like, oh, we have very small cameras, very light and small. And the XT1 is a very small camera. This one's even smaller. That's why I said, like, this little NEX6, I think that little NEX6 was ahead of its time. Exactly. I was trying to copy it to share it in chat. It's like identifiers. Okay, so yeah, we're on the same thing. I gotta definitely check that out. Maybe I need to just like bring the next sentence down so that it gives it enough space to give the full hyperlink. It says I need some more email accounts. Stuff gets lost and confused. Yeah. But what I'm thinking about doing is just like funneling them all into one. You know, like pretty much my iPhone does that already, but just into one account so that I can see it on my computer. It says I don't know how true it is, but it is true Sony makes Fuji sensors. No, I did take a look at it. It's the same exact sensor. And I actually think, right? And this is just me speculating. It might have been that they stopped using that 16.1 sensor because almost like they sold the rest of the lot to Fuji. It was like, okay, you know what? We're moving on to other sensors, to the 24 megapixels in the APS-C, and we're gonna do that. But FYI, if you did not know, every, and I mean every, Fuji sensor is a Sony sensor. Fuji does not make their own sensors. Neither does Nikon. These are all Sony sensors. The difference is the computing process, the information and how it's being extracted from these sensors. That's where these camera manufacturers differ, you know. But the sensors themselves, the arrays, they're made from Sony. So many. All these Micro Four Thirds sensors, like Z cameras, like all these things, they're all Sony sensors. That's why I also pay attention to them, because right now Sony released to another third-party camera manufacturer a new stacked Micro Four Thirds sensor. So the Micro Four Thirds, like on Panasonic cameras and things like that, is gonna be coming out with a new high readout stacked sensor, which is similar to that you would find, which is a conversation that I had on the live stream not too long ago, because I mentioned that because that's where I see the next iteration of APS-C sensors coming. You know, right now we've pretty much maxed out with the technology the way it is right now as a single stack. The next step is going to be stacked APS-C sensors, which we're going to see some really fast readouts. You know, the high frame rates and readout speeds that we're able to see on the ZV-1 up to 940 frames has to do with the 1-inch sensor and the fact that that 1-inch sensor is a stacked sensor. So on top of less space to actually like read information, so it gets a faster readout, you have that double factor of it being stacked as well to get an even faster readout on a smaller sensor, is why they're able to achieve that. It says Kippy, I nailed it just before MrCameraJunkie. But what is Fuji doing different in their sensors? Because I really don't enjoy my 6500 and sold it for my X-T3. Well, you see, that's the whole thing. Like, Fuji is not using the same sensor. You could even tell in their cameras. They went from 16 megapixels on their APS-C to 26 megapixels. They never used the 24 megapixel, but that, like I said, has everything to do with the computing power and how the company is rendering that information. And that's where Fuji takes their time with their colors, and that's why we're having this conversation. Like, in all sincerity, even though I shot Canon, I'm starting to realize that for me personally, Fuji colors are more impacting to me than Canon colors ever were. And not that I'm taking anything away from Canon colors, but to me, I have like more of like that je ne sais quoi, you know, like feeling, like that warmth, that organic feeling that you get out of photograph, and the colors, right? Straight out of a JPEG, I really am liking a lot what I'm seeing from the Fuji with the vintage lenses than I have with Canon colors. And that's just me. Says, I think he said that the sensor was only in that NEX6. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we're on the same page. Exactly. It's only in this NEX6 because it is the 16.1. And like I said, I think Instead of them putting it in more cameras, they had the 24 megapixel, which they put into their NEX7, which was the precursor to the 6000 series. So the NEX7, that was the predecessor from that camera, already had to jump up, and the XT1s came out with what I'm thinking the rest of those sensors, and however Fuji designed to put it on there. But that is also another conversation, which I actually think that if you're sticking with a megapixel count between 12 to 18 megapixels, right, and 16 falls in it, to me, in my experience, I've realized that what people would say when they see the images, when people would say like, oh, it looks like it was film, even though it's digital, it looks like it's film. It's got that quality of like that organic film type of look. I've noticed in my own images that I've gotten that out of cameras that were between 12 to 18 megapixels. Whenever I have used a camera that has a higher count than 18 megapixels is where I started hearing people saying like, oh, it looks like that little bit of digital sharpening, or a little like that, where you lose that film aesthetic quality out of it. And that's just been my experience. Now, it's not that you can't add it in post with photography, but definitely makes a big difference when it comes to like the images straight out of camera, JPEGs. My experience is that the filmic quality that you're looking for is found within the 12 to 18 megapixels. If you get higher than that, you tend to lose that straight out of camera, like, oh, this looks like film. That's my opinion. So I think that the older technology in those ranges falls into that. And it doesn't matter which camera, because I've experienced that with my Nikon D90, and that's a 12 megapixel. And anything that I shot that, shot raw and JPEG, and I would look at the JPEG file, it just looked like something that I would get out of a film. So that's me. Kippy says, okay. I think that the mail app for your Mac, you plug in info just like your phone, so you have one box like the phone. Okay, that's great. Says, I agree with you on the colors in the Fuji. In the moment, it really gives you super closest feel to the film days. Not for the emulation, just for the whole grain. Yeah, the graininess, the organicness of it, like Canon. But more somehow with Fuji, I guess. Exactly, like that's what I'm saying. And it's, like I said, it's not taking anything away from Canon, but this is the difference where I would have to say, and I'm gonna close out the show with this. This is the difference, Kip. I've noticed that the quality of that filmic look, right, that I get from Canon when I was using Canon had to do with Canon glass, not so much the Canon cameras and the sensor. And this is like, I would get that when I was using my my 5D Mark I, which is also, I believe, a 12 megapixel or 14 megapixel full frame, right? And using that with my 24 to 105 lens, my L series lens, and that was the f4 L series. I used to get stuff that looked straight, like print quality, like straight out of camera, looked amazing. That like the graininess, that organic feel, and I would get it. And I would get similar to that when I was using that glass, right? Canon glass adapted to my A6000 camera. So it was almost like the filmic quality look was in Canon's glass, not in their camera bodies. What I've noticed with Fuji is that the look is coming out of the camera body comparative to the glass. Now, glass always first, so you put a quality piece of vintage glass, but then you add that to that filmic quality, and you're getting those like those color tones out of the Fuji cameras. So like, even for me, right? I put on this lens on it, this Per Gear, which is a brand new, like modern day lens. It's manual, but all the optics are super sharp, up to modern day standards. And I'm still getting a filmic look out of that camera because the look that I'm getting, not so much predicated to the glass, but to the camera itself. So that's where I noticed the difference. And that's it. That's kind of where I see the difference between both cameras. Like, I do enjoy the colors both in Canon and Fuji, but I actually think that the Fuji colors are more predicated to the camera bodies themselves, giving you the ability to adapt whichever lens that you desire, including vintage lenses, and you're gonna get a very nice color aesthetic comparative to Canon cameras, which are mostly based on the lenses themselves. And I was able to reproduce some of Canon colors on even my Sony cameras just by adapting the lenses from Canon to my Sonys. So that's where that's my 2 cents on it. I would definitely love to do some more research on it to play around with both of those camera features with more lenses to put more of my ideas into effect, so to speak. But that's where I'm gonna leave it. I want to thank every single one of you who's hung out with me. We're running up to 3 hours, man. I feel like this is a Niminati stream, right? Shout out to Nick Niman, always catching his live streams on Saturday mornings, which really goes to show you he was one of the ones that says like live streaming is so addicting, and it is. I absolutely love it. We've all hung out here, well, most of us have hung out with Peter Gregg when he's done even 7-hour streams, and I've been there with him for some of them. So as always, I highly appreciate all of you who are still here hanging out with me, spending your time, which is your most precious commodity. Like I tell you guys, I have so much fun that I can sit here and have a conversation with you guys for 3 hours like nothing, because this is where I want to be. And to tell you, to even think that when I was first starting this stream, I was so tired that I was like, I don't even know if I have the energy, to be me. And as soon as like lights, camera, action is like, the adrenaline kicks in, and now it's just like I'm ready to rock and roll. I have some laundry to put away now before I go to sleep, and I'll take care of dishes tomorrow. But as always, thank you. I appreciate you guys so much for hanging out here with me, spending your time. I want you to take care of yourselves. I want you to have a great, incredible week, and I will see you guys here next Saturday, because we're gonna do it all over again. As always, same time, same channel, and I can't wait to talk to you then. Another tidbit for those of you who are subscribed, I just heard that YouTube changed their parameters of the community feed, and that now you only need 500 subscribers to actually have access to it. So if any of you know exactly how to access the community feed, like Kip, I believe you already have that feature. If you could shoot me a message and let me know, I would appreciate that, because I want to look into that. I want to start implementing the community feed to ask you guys questions, because sometimes I have, ideas like I can make the live stream this Saturday about this or about that. And now this is going to be another way where I could just interact with you guys, and maybe you guys can put more input on what you want the subjects to be talked about for the weekly streams. So I'm just going to leave it with that. Like I said, if any of you guys have anything that you guys just want to chat, always make sure to shoot me a DM wherever you can find me. I appreciate you all. Have a great week, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy.